Talking about bigging up, let's talk about Tame Impala. So I've been listening to this new Tame Impala record because there's been a lot of conversation, a lot of chitter chatter on the social media, on specifically vis-a-vis Resident Advisor Instagram page, where they published an article or a post basically talking about the album, reviewing it, which has now weirdly enough replaced their comment section. I was one of the people that was very against and very upset and saddened when Resident Advisor turned off their comments on their site, mostly because DJs were getting in their feelings. It's kind of dumb thinking about it now, because platforms like Instagram and Twitter and whatnot are way harsher than any fucking RA comment section was. But anyway, I digress. Now it seems like the Instagram comment section has replaced the comment section on the RA website. That was once a popping, vibrant place where I discovered a lot of great artists, a lot of great writers and shit, and subgenres and all this malarkey and clubs around the world and festival. Honestly, I fucking loved it. I always said one of the best things about the RA comments was that at the end of the year, they had the RA DJ poll, which was one of the greatest things, by the way. Back in the day, you could actually vote for the DJ that you thought was the best DJ throughout that year. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they had a really cool feature with something that I would probably try and copy and build into my website or something, where you could only vote for a DJ that you attended or bookmark the event or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. If you click going or something to an event, you could click a DJ that you liked throughout the year that you thought was good, and it would really make for a really interesting list, like, you know, a really interesting list across the board. And obviously, you know, a big DJs won it across the years a number of times, like Seth Troxler, Dixon and stuff, people that I'm a big fan of. But what I really liked about that list was that the comment section under it. So obviously RA would publish the list of like, hey, here's the top DJs, but the comment section was the best because there'll be people from all around the world recommending to you like local heroes, people who they saw on the road that were fucking sick, who probably didn't get listed. It was a really cool place to kind of discover a lot of new acts and shit, and it's really a shame that we don't have it anymore. Anyway, the comment section on Instagram has kind of replaced it, and there's been a lot of conversation because RA gave Tame Impala's new album Deadbeat a bad review. I've listened to the album in full, back and front, back and forward, front to the middle, middle to the back a few times now, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't see what all the fuffer is about. I really enjoyed it. Is it as good as his previous albums? Obviously not. It doesn't hold a candle to any of his earlier work, but I feel like he came out of the gate so strong with such a great fucking discography. It's pretty difficult to hit those heady heights. Now, my initial reaction from this new album is this. My initial reaction is that I kind of had the feeling incorrectly, or maybe I kind of read or whatever else online, that this was meant to be more of a dance album, because there was a whole conversation and news around Kevin from Tame Impala doing a lot of DJ sets throughout the year. And I don't know if the DJ sets were in part to promote the album, or if that was him doing more shows and being a DJ in terms of instead of doing the live band, so live acting with doing Tame Impala with his three other people that he does it with, he was doing more DJ sets. So I assumed this was going to be more of a houseier vibe. So it was really confusing when the singles dropped, because I think the singles were like Dracula, Loser, and End of Summer. I think those are the tracks, right? And the only housey kind of dance music one that kind of really grabbed people's attention was Dracula. That's a bop, right? End of Summer, I didn't really like it too much, and Loser wasn't really for me. So I was a little bit confused when it comes to that kind of vibe. But when Dracula obviously hit, I loved it. But I listened to the album full. What I got from it, my initial reactions was that I felt like Tame Impala made better quote-unquote dance music before he knew he was making dance music, if that makes sense. You know, you listen to stuff like Currents, like albums like Currents, even Lonerism really, but Currents probably more so. There's so many like dance records on there that are probably not, he probably never even thought he was making that. He's just making some sick stuff in the fucking studio. So I feel like now that he's probably aware that he has that audience, or that he has that ear, and he's trying to make it, it doesn't necessarily sound the same, if that makes any sense. or maybe just ran out of juice. I don't really know. But what I did like about the album is that it did kind of go up and down. The intro I really liked, My Old Ways, the kind of a cappella style, and then the kick, and then obviously the beat kicks in halfway through. I thought that was an amazing way to go. No Reply, not for me. Dracula I loved. Loser, not for me. Oblivion I loved. Not My World I didn't like. Piece of Heaven I loved. Obsolete I didn't like. Ephemeral Connection I liked. See You on Monday I liked. Afterthought was one of my favorite tracks, and End of Summer I didn't like. So I think I like over half of the album, and even the tracks that I didn't like, in sequence I think they worked really well together. I wasn't necessarily going and skipping anything, and it clocks in just under 56 minutes. For me, that's a big stickler, because I feel like nowadays people, you know, fill their albums with fluff, too many tracks on there, so it's kind of bloated, or the runtime is way too long. So I really enjoyed it for how short and concise it was, to the point. I enjoyed some of the more punchier productions and stuff like Afterthought, which felt like it was a track that could probably fit anywhere alongside Slow Rush, Currents, Lonerism. That could easily fit alongside and all that sort of stuff. But again, I feel like Tame Impala's kind of competing with himself, you know. He's made so many great fucking albums that he could probably retire today and still tour a fucking Currents, you know, legit. And I think he's got like 2 albums and I know one of them is a kind of remix album, but he could legitimately quit today and he could tour off of Currents until the day that he dies, because the album is such a fucking banger, not including the Lonerism and everything else in between. So I just think someone like him, who kind of defined the sound, who kind of was a bit of a flag bearer in terms of that particular brand of like indie dance type of, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I think it's difficult to kind of come and surpass your previous work when you're the one that kind of laid the blueprint, you know. So it's kind of a bit unfair when people are very critical of the work that he's done, because, you know, legitimately he's only competing against himself, like, because the stuff that he did, just fucking too fucking good. Would I have preferred way more of a punchier vibe? Would I have preferred My Old Ways going on? Yes, for sure. Did it kind of weirdly fall off when Loser came on? I was like, oh, I don't hate that track, and then the blitz. So, do you know what I mean? There's a little bit too many like weird kind of twists and turns throughout the album. But overall, I fucking loved it. And Afterthought, I've been playing that on loop since the album dropped. I really fucking love it. And of course, Dracula is a fucking beat. I really cannot wait to hear what they're going to be doing in terms of remix albums. Hopefully there is one. There's probably going to be one, I would assume. That might be the deluxe, hopefully. I'm curious to see what people do with some of the singles, which one they take to try and remix and flip. I'm assuming they'll probably try and take the fucking obvious ones or the singles. But I'll be curious to see if somebody picks something kind of left field to kind of go and try and edit or remix. But overall, I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was as bad as people say it was. I think nowadays there's a tendency to kind of go a little bit overboard when it comes to criticism of albums, because we all kind of hype up things a bit too much, right? Similar, I think Tame Impala's album was very highly anticipated because he's been, you know, he's not been around for ages. When did Slow Rush drop? Slow Rush was the last album, right? Slow Rush dropped when? 2022, so it's been 3 years or so, right, since he's not been around. Obviously some of it's to do with COVID, I'd assume, as well, but still, I fucking really enjoyed it. Deadbeat is fucking great, marks the next chapter in his life going forward, obviously being a dad and shit. I really did fucking love it, and I can't wait to see what this sounds like live, and I can't wait to hear what some of the remixes sound like going forward. RA is getting destroyed in the comment section regarding this fucking album, which I think is being unfairly critiqued and panned. I really enjoyed it for what it's worth. Let's see. First impression, Tame Impala's new club record is a miss. Inspired by Australians' bush duff culture, Kevin Parker's first album in 5 years transposes his synth-heavy psych formula onto dance music with varying results. As a convenience of rave culture qualities to a wider audience, the sense of missed opportunity is hard to shake. There's no missed opportunity. What do you mean missed opportunity? I don't think there's a missed opportunity here. I think he did exactly what he was meant to do on this particular album. I think I would have preferred, legit, on my personal, I would have personally preferred to have had way more Draculas and Afterthoughts in this album than what we got, right? Personally, I would have way more preferred to have heard way more Afterthoughts, way more My Old Ways, way more Draculas on this album than what we got. We didn't get as many as I wanted, but I don't think he didn't not do what he wanted to do. I think he did exactly what he wanted to do. If anything, maybe fans like myself were had our expectations in the wrong place because he's not been around for a while, and we assumed the album was going to be one way, you know, and it wasn't the way that we thought it was going to be. Do you know what I mean? But I don't think he did anything different than what he was going to do personally with this particular project, but I could be wrong. Let's go to the next slide. It says Deadbeat is short of Parker's best and unlikely to convince club heads that he understands electronic culture. A surprising dip for one of the electronics pop's best. What? How is it unlikely to how who's he need to convince that he gets dance music? I don't understand how he doesn't need to convince anybody. He's killed it. Who's he need to convince? He's got a track record already with his previous albums, especially current, like I keep mentioning. There's so many great tracks on there that kind of give you an idea that he's really, you know, attuned when it comes to dance music. Like I said, I feel like if any criticism I could kind of levy towards this album, I feel like he tried maybe too hard to make dance records or club records, whereas beforehand he was making them not by chance, not by happenstance, but he just kind of, I won't say stumbled across them, but he was kind of making them from a place where he's just making songs in terms of like, because I feel like nowadays, you saw a little bit with FK Twigs, right? When these artists decide, oh, I'm going to make a club record, it never really hits, you know, when they're really like concentrated and focused on trying to make a club record. I think when you're not too focused on trying to make a club record, you make a club record that resonates and bangs. But when you're too focused on it, when you're trying too hard to appease and to maybe placate and to maybe pander to a certain audience, it can sometimes fall a bit short. I don't think he's pandering personally, but I think he did especially exactly what he said he was going to do. Let me read a bit of the blurb here. The blurb on here says the following: Tame Impala hits the rave and the results are unconvincing. In the 2010s, Kevin Parker pulled clear from the chasing pack as a near universal favorite. Anticipation for his was high for what a clubber side of Parker might sound on Deadbeat. What we hasn't lived up to expectation. The beats are wan, the lyrics are doing, and the mixdown curiously dry. Few of the dance cuts merit their length, exposing the holes in the vibe-forward songcraft with tight pop production can mask. There are bright spots in the melodic, wistful album. There always will be Kevin Parker's pedigree, but as an exercise in seeing whether Tame Impala can make a convincing play in club scene space, it's questionable whether these songs would get a second glance without Parker's name attached. Nah, they would. Come on, don't be stupid, man. Afterthought and the fucking intro track, what's it called? My Old Ways. Come on, man. Dracula as well. Like, who's making that? That's unfair to say if his name wasn't attached to this, no one would be listening to it. But who else could make My Old Ways, Dracula, Afterthought, and even, I don't know, let me pick another one here. Piece of Heaven. Who can make that really? Come on. The only person that can make that is Kevin Parker, aka Tame Impala. I think he did a stupendous job. I think he did a splendid job. I think this hate is very unwarranted, and maybe it's kind of rooted in something else. I don't know. Maybe Tame Impala did something else politically, societally. You know, maybe he's in the cancelled category of artists nowadays. Maybe he didn't kind of sign his name to a certain list and now people have it out for him. But I think this criticism is really unwarranted, personally, for me. Very, very, very unwarranted, especially when he only is competing with himself. You know, you're kind of criticizing and chastising him as if he's got equals within his field. He's kind of in his own lane and he's the flag bearer. For a reason, you know. Let's read some of the comments here. Big up my guy Heath Valencia. What do you say? It's great record reminder of early 2010s. I wouldn't say about to. You know what? Actually, he's telling the truth there. You know what vibe I got from this album? MGMT. You know that album? What's that album that's got Little Dark Age on it? Little Dark Age, or whatever the track that comes after it. I think this album sounds a lot like that. It sounds like an extension. If anything, it sounds more MGMT than Tame Impala. You know, and MGMT, I think I put it in the same category as that LCD Sound System, right? It's kind of in that sort of world, but it sounds a lot like MGMT. But a lot of MGMT records, you play it now, like even again, like that, wherever that record fucking My Little Dark Age is on, that's still gonna fucking turn up a club. Let's be real. This person, Ultra Chrissy, says, I love how the press that's supposedly all about club culture, aka community love and all that, starts an article with a tone like this? Exactly, good point. Electronic music doesn't have one way to be. It's literally built on freedom and experimentation. Every genre, every tempo, every texture fits under the umbrella. So you think whoever wrote this would know that, right? That's the thing as well. Like, if the beats are shit, like we all know what shit beats are, we've all got an ear, we've all discerning listeners, we're all big fans and fangirls and day-dems and everything else in between. We know what sounds fucking terrible. So if the stuff sounds terrible, just say it sounds terrible. But to say it's not falling short of this when he's competing with him, it's Tame Impala v Tame Impala. It's fucking crazy. It's Kevin v Kevin, and you're acting as if like he's got an equal. That's why I so anticipate. That's why we're all on the edge of our seats. Did it maybe fall short of our lofty expectation? Yes, but I think everything across the board has. Across the arts, everything has kind of not really kind of lived up to its kind of hype. Not really. Even Kendrick Lamar's fucking album, right? For some of UK bots out there, even Kendrick Lamar's album GNX hasn't really. I mean, most people aren't probably replaying it till now. I'm sure some of that has to have good replay value. Drake hasn't really been popular as much as he has. The Playboy Carti album kind of felt like it came and went. Not, you know, fucking what's his face? Tyler Creator dropped 2 albums in the calendar year, and that hasn't necessarily worked out. So everything's not really been hitting the way it probably should. Movies haven't really been hitting the way they have. TV series, series endings and shit. I don't know. So I think it's a bit harsh to kind of levy that always at Tame Impala, but I could be wrong. It continues. Big up Ultra Chrissy. This album isn't trying to fit into the rave box, so why are we forcing some expert analysis on it for not being what it never set out to be? Exactly. But it also is not. To be fair, I take it back slightly, because I did think it was going to be more dancey. I don't know what I thought. I don't know what I thought in my head, but I thought it would have a little bit more punch, you know? Like, when I heard Dracula, I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, here we go. Now he's saying something, right? Loser, when I heard that as a single, I was like, or End of Summer, I was like, what the fuck is this, you know? But once I heard Dracula, I was like, okay, cool, here we go. But it wasn't enough of that, but still, solid enough album, in my personal opinion. But also, it's not a rave enough because it's not 150 BPM loop and a fader going in and out for 9 minutes straight. I love music journalism. Always makes me wonder if we even need it. The music is supposed to be about feeling and something, not dissecting it to the death. No, to be fair, I like music journalism. It gives you something to kind of bounce off of, and it also informs or kind of strengthens whatever point of view you have. That's why I'm also really open to talking to people from, you know, who have different points of view, different political beliefs than I do, because it kind of strengthens, I think, your argument. Because you didn't have to kind of, you know, go back to the drawing board and kind of, you know, really hunker down on why you believe it. And me personally, I've always been a big advocate of listening and seeing and feeling and touching things from my own personal viewpoint to see what I think of it. I'm going to obviously take in what you have to say, because you're also a person, but I'm always going to listen for myself. That's why I was very eager and excited to listen to a new Taylor Swift album. Because I'm not really a Taylor Swift fan, but everyone was panning the album. Then I played it for myself. I was like, hold on, I don't even listen to this girl's music, and I thought it was pretty decent. I thought all the criticism was a little bit unwarranted. So I love that kind of thing happening, but that only would have happened because I've heard other people say they didn't like it, and I went to hear it for myself. But if I just went by what they said, I would have never listened to it, and I would have kind of, you know, denied myself the pleasure of listening to some music that I'm not really that into, that's going to open my horizon. So I think that's really fucking important. But anyway, what do I know? Another person says here, RA sounded like Resident Boomer. I love that. Another person says people in the comments are wild, guys. It's okay for an album to be mid. It's also okay for it to be critiqued. It's okay for you to like it while others don't. It's okay. You'll be okay. Again, I think all these big words like mid, trash. It's like, can we reserve them for like things that are trash and mid, please? Can we reserve the words mid and trash for things that are mid and trash, and not just label something that we don't like, quote unquote, as mid and trash? We have to use our words. We've got enough emojis and icons and fucking letters on our type pads for us to actually put together and articulate what we actually feel about music, what we think about it, as opposed to just saying mid or trash. Come on, man. Especially for a talent like Tame Impala. He deserves more. He deserves way more, you know, way more consideration, way more reflection. Take a beat, take a breath. What do you really think of it? Is it not as good as Lonerism? Is it not good as fucking Current? Okay, yes, we get it. But Jesus Christ, trash and mid, you know. So then, if Tame Impala's trash and mid, what's fucking Peggy Goo? I don't think it was made to be a club album, someone says here. He has mentioned it was inspired by club culture in Australia, but definitely this is not an attempt to get into the club culture. It flirts with it, but it's not its own twist, and I think that's the beauty of it. I want people to stop saying that term, by the way. Going forward, I want more artists to stop saying their album is influenced by club culture when they mean they just, I don't know, they watched a fucking documentary or I don't know, whatever, some fucking movie, right? And suddenly, you know, they're fucking influenced by it, and that's what influenced what they made because they were fucking on speed doing it. Enough of that. Because when you start putting out those labels, people immediately think we're going to hear dance music, and it's not what we hear. Do you know what I mean? We're thinking we're going to be hearing a fucking fabric mix of an album. People just need to allow it, because when people say club music, you think of club music, but I guess what they mean, I guess, is theme wise, right? The theme of it, the tone of it, the feel of it. That's what they probably mean. But just let's do without it, please, going forward. Let's everybody just describe their music differently. Let's maybe describe it as like, I don't know, this music is influenced by open spaces with other people, shared spaces with other people, you know, or something. The article's a miss, great album. I like it. Sue me, someone says here. Someone else says whatever, I loved it. Another person says we love it. Another person here says, I can promise you now, many DJs are going to be remixing the album into some massive hits. Exactly. I will be playing it. If I was playing in pubs still now, I'd be playing it in pubs, legit. If I was playing my fucking £150 for 4-hour sets, or for fucking unlimited drink tokens, club sets, I'd be playing a lot of this in the clubs too. So let's be real. I can promise you now, many DJs are going to be remixing this album into some massive hits. Give it a couple months and this take will be absolutely nullified by the heaters that will be blessing us in the club. Now again, it doesn't need to be nullified. No one needs to nullify anybody's opinion. I just think they went a bit too hard. They went a bit too extra. They went a bit too OTT. But just because they didn't like it doesn't mean because now we're going to find hits, that just kind of invalidates their opinion. No, their opinion is still valid. I think they just put a little bit too much Salt Bay on it. You know, they put a little bit too much Salt Bay on it to essentially call Kevin Parker trash and mid is extremely overboard. Another person says, just because an artist chooses not to do hard techno or hyper bachata doesn't mean it's mid. But anyways, what can I tell to an editorial team who just panders to the current thing? Fair play. Another one says here, every step further from the vibe of the first two albums has been a dip for me. Love that these are just not a fan of his dancey side. But again, that's really the plight of being an artist, isn't it? You come into the game and people meet you at a certain point, right? People met Tame Impala at certain points of his trajectory. Lonerisms, whatever else. What was the album before Lonerisms? You meet him at certain stages of his fucking career, right? You might have met him at fucking Inner Speaker, right? And then, you know, or some people meet him at Currents, and then you want a repeat of Currents every other year, but he might be onto some other things. Currents might have been made 4 years before the day that it fucking released, so you have no idea. So it must be really excruciating to be an artist, because you're wanting to evolve your sound, fine tune your sound, explore different things, experiment, but your fans meet you at a certain point and they kind of, you know, they put you in a fucking cryo chamber and they want you to just rinse and repeat those hits, when really it's like, it's not really the point of being an artist, isn't it? You gotta kind of try new things. Another one says, someone says here, no problem with negative reviews of art, but the tone is immensely patronizing and disrespectful. That's what I'm saying. Tame Impala deserves more respect, but I wonder if this has to do with some political, social thing going on. Tame Impala must have said or did something that people at RE maybe didn't agree with. Maybe he's not a part of the boycott Berghain thing. I don't know. There's something going. Maybe he didn't sign the fucking Palestine thing. Something's going on there, because it sounds a little bit too personal. Another person says here, didn't love it either, but also didn't hate it. RA, this seems like a mean-spirited attempt to harm the reputation of a creative person who's made a good career for himself. Exactly. Kind of surprised y'all would be jerks. The dude seems like a super awkward studio rat who has self-confidence issues. Hopefully they can take some harsh criticism, because you guys are being mean. That's the thing. I've wondered, like, I felt like, was it during the pandemic? Because he went on a tour, didn't he? There's something I'm missing. Maybe someone could tell me. When I make this in a clip, someone tell me in the comments. I did see a kind of a hate train forming around Tame Impala around the pandemic, towards the end of it. there was a sort of hate train going on. I don't know why that was. Maybe it's because of his audience, his fans. Maybe, you know, because he got really popular over the last few years. He's become huge. So maybe people don't like his fans. I don't really know. But there was a bit of a hate train going on around him. But he's not really your typical Australian guy in that respect. I don't know. He doesn't come across overly brash and broy and chatty, whatever. He seems kind of soft-spoken and chill and easygoing. I just listened to his interview on How Long Gone, Big Up How Long Gone podcast, and he came across really well on there. But I do remember there was something in the air regarding Kevin Parker and people not really liking his vibe. And I wonder if this is what's kind of influenced some of this discourse, some of this tone, some of the meanness that people are noticing in this RA review, with people maybe not liking him, maybe not liking his fans, maybe just not liking the fact that he's really popular. I don't really know. But I really like it. Like, I don't know. I can just imagine what it might be like being in a fucking arena, right? Imagine being in a fucking arena somewhere and hearing fucking Eventually, you know, hearing something like Nangs, I don't know, hearing something like fucking Reality in Motion and singing along to that shit. Fuck, man. The first couple of times I listened to Tame Impala in my entire life, legit, London is in the speaker, like legit tear jerkers. And you know me, I'm not an emotional type of guy, but that shit got me in my feels, bro. Like, that guy is a fucking wizard. I think it's a brilliant album. It's definitely not a club record, but it's a brilliant album. Number says here, this album is getting too much hate online. It's good. What the fuck? Another one here says it's a cinephile. I watch it. He's a cinephile. I watch Family Guy is a real lyric on this album. Like, what do you mean? He's also made Currents. Genuinely enjoying the first full listen. Earlier thinking to myself, I can't wait to read a cynical RA takedown. Another person says, is the club record of in the room with us? Eyes emoji. Another person says it's actually one of his best works, and to be fair, it has more high end qualities than most electronic music today. I don't think it's his best work. His best work is still Currents. His best work is still Currents. Front to back, his best work is still Currents, but it is good. Well, that was just your opinion, man. It's pretty bad. Sorry, Kevin. Another person says this review is essentially my taste is superior to you normies, wrapped in performatively advanced wording. Of course, I know rage bait is everywhere these days. Another person says, honestly, would have been really funny to connect this with a kind of music post. Rude, somebody says here, review my album over 650 track release from Future Garage or shut up. Another person says, thank you for writing this. This had to be said. It's supermarket electronic music, bro. If they play this in a Lidl, I'd be fucking shocking out. If they play this in a fucking Lidl, I'm fucking shocking out. If they play this in my local Sainsbury's, I'm fucking doing the fucking worm. You know what I mean? If they play this in my fucking local Tesco Express, I'm gliding. You know what I mean? Fucking, what's that movie? Is it Breakers or whatever that old school movie? I'm doing that glide where he does it with a broom. Right? I'm doing that fucking shit if they play this in Tesco Express. Another person here says, club album, was it even supposed to be that? Regardless, I don't know if it's a shocking expecting a 10 out of 10 debut club record from someone who makes pop rock. Exactly. Thank you. And if I'm not mistaken, he doesn't even go to clubs anyway. Like, all this fucking criticism, he doesn't even go to clubs. Like, he's just a studio rat. Someone said there, right? He's a self-confessed studio rat, and you're expecting him to make fucking, I don't know, nowadays Pano Bar, Robert Johnson-esque kind of club record music. Like, come on, man, relax, man. Do yourself a favor. Do yourself a fucking favor. But again, what do I know? Absolutely nothing. What do I know? Absolutely nada.